This podcast is intended for a mature audience. Listener discretion is advised. Welcome back to Legend of the Bones. Following in the footsteps of giants, Legend of the Bones is a chimera. A mix of old-school tabletop RPG and dark fantasy storytelling. As its name might suggest, in Legend of the Bones the dice rule. There'll be no rerolls, no fudging the dice, no metacurrency. The roll of the bones will determine the character's destiny, and no one will be spared their fate. None shall escape the destiny of bone. Last time on Legend of the Bones. The companions left Mullion aboard Canute's ship, the Ughel, heading south up the River Nade and en route to Pen Melkine in search of the Eye of Karrek. Beric and Canute reflected on rumours they had heard in Mullion, that the Southern Thanes were mounting a rebellion against the king, and that the spectre of civil war was looming ever closer. At the end of the first day, the ship reached the village of Tregowan, where the local priest was presiding over the trial of a woman accused of being a witch. The woman was bound and thrown into the river, but was saved when Beric dived in and pulled her to safety. Valen confirmed the woman, Morglin, was no sorceress, and a heated exchange ensued between the priest, Father Theobald, and Lena, which ended in Theobald leaving resentfully. Having alienated much of the village through their intervention, the companions spent the night aboard the Ughel before continuing their journey south, offering to take Morglin to the next settlement. During the journey, Morglin revealed to Lena that Theobald had only been Tregowan's priest for a few months, and that shortly before he had arrived, two strangers, women, whom the midwife had recognised as mages, had passed through the village. As the day wore on, the Ughel followed the river as it flowed from a deep gorge, where the companions observed a natural stairway leading up to some kind of ancient portal cut into the limestone walls, leaving them with a decision of whether or not to enter. Chapter 46, Part 1, Day 49, Late Morning. Party status: Beric, 37 out of 37 hit points. Lena, 26 out of 26 hit points. Valen, 17 out of 17 hit points. Talion, 24 out of 24 hit points. Canute, 31 out of 31 hit points. Jenna, 15 out of 15 hit points. Spells available: Valen has memorised Push, Shield, Soothe, Revive, and Clairvoyance. Talion has memorised Resolve, Poetic Prose, Pitch, and Imbue. Lena can pray for 2 first-level miracles and 2 second-level miracles. Jenna can pray for 2 first-level miracles. Ever since Angarak, Jenna had found a new sense of peace. She had not realised until then just how much her desire for justice had consumed her. When Adric had betrayed her, when he had given her over to Nedra's acolytes in Kerudu, she was certain that she would die. In fact, she had prayed for death. She had begged Naya to take her, to save her from the abuses to which she was subjected to. And when her prayers remained unanswered, she could not help but feel hopeless. But now, looking back, it seemed to her that those torments were the Nine judging her, testing if she was worthy to receive the word. And just when she thought she could endure no more, they sent her a saviour. Of course, all of these new friends had rescued her, but one among them had helped to save her soul. She looked over to where Lena was talking with Beric and Valen. She thought how close they had become, and the bond they had forged between them. They were more than just simply sisters in the eyes of the gods, she ruminated. The Nine had a plan, she told herself. They had saved her, and in turn she had saved the life of Cadfael. She had played a part in liberating Innis Gwyn, restoring Solar's light to that holy place. And in return, her faith had been rewarded. They had granted her justice. Killing Adric had erased the stain of his betrayal from her heart, yet she questioned whether that was enough. After all, her tutor, Brother Johan, had been complicit, and they had all been pawns in Reynard's schemes. She had prayed for Mithra's guidance, and for a time she had considered walking away, perhaps travelling to Trevenid to take up Brannoc's offer of a position as Conwyn's chaplain. But having witnessed what she had in Tregowan, how the Brethren's twisted ideology could reach even a small rural community, she knew it was a sign. She was meant to be here. For good or ill, it was the will of the Nine. She suddenly felt something tickling the back of her hand, and looking down, she saw a wasp crawling on her skin. Instinctively she flinched, causing the insect to prick her with its sting. "Ah!" she exclaimed, swatting the wasp away, her skin already red and inflamed around a small white lump. She sucked at it for a few moments, then scoffed wryly.
The will of the Nine.
I have said before that I am increasingly finding the distinction between player characters and non-player characters to be blurred. It's hard to believe it, but Jenna has now been with the party since episode 29. So really, I can no longer justify regarding her as an NPC. She is, and has been for some time, a full member of the party. Luckily for me, Fiona, who voices her, has already agreed to continue for as long as I need, so that settles it. So, the current dilemma for the companions is whether to investigate the strange doorway in the cliffs of Karrek Ughel. On the one hand, assuming that Demelza has passed through this way, as was suggested by Morgulin, then whatever this place is, it may hold some information or something of use. On the other hand, to tarry here may mean losing valuable time. I think I'm going to ask the Oracle. Do the companions decide to investigate this location? A 4. That's a yes, but. I think I will interpret that as none of the crew, for example Arn, will accompany them. Okay, let's go exploring. Chapter 46, Part 2, Day 49, Midday. Party status. The party status is unchanged. The sun had passed its zenith as the companions began their ascent up the stairs carved into the side of the gorge known as Karrek Ughel, their boots crunching on loose fragments and rock dust as they went. The path wound its way up the steep cliffs, each step revealing more of the majestic scenery below. The River Nade meandered through the valley, its waters sparkling and glistening like liquid silver under the sun. The crew of the Uverdraka had dropped anchor and secured the ship with ropes around nearby rocks and trees. And Beric thought how strange it was seeing the ship from that perspective, undulating gently with the flow of the river. All around them were the gentle sounds of summer, the soft rustling of leaves, the distant murmur of the river, and the occasional call of a bird, while the scent of wild flowers and lush grass mingled with the earthy aroma of rock and soil, permeating the air. 30 yards to the left of the path, an osprey flew up from the river, a large brown trout flapping in its talons. The bird landed atop a large hawthorn upon which its nest was situated. 3 hungry mouths stretched up, chirping urgently as the adult tore strips from the fish. Eventually, the companions reached the end of the steps, standing before the dark rectangular void in the rock. It was 10 feet high and 6 wide, and surrounded by strange markings carved into the stone. Everyone looked expectantly at Valen, who was already staring intently at the symbols.
"These are the runes of Old Merenish,"
the mage announced.
"like those which we found in Vortigern's tomb."
"What say it?" Beric asked.
"It reads, beyond the veil where wisdom lies, in flowing whispers, truth resides."
"What could that mean?"
"I know not, but I do not think the words are ill."
Best not take any chances.
Canute declared, drawing his blade and hefting his shield. "Agreed," Beric concurred, and with that the others followed suit. "Let's take a look." In episode 45, I rolled a natural 20 for Stumble Upon, which meant the party would encounter something good or beneficial. So I designed this location in response. However, we also heard that Morglin warned the companions that local legend told of some long-forgotten evil inhabiting the gorge. I'm going to ask the Oracle, does this legend have any truth in it? And if so, has the evil taken up residence in this place? A 6. That's a yes and. I guess there's no such thing as a free lunch. So while I'm here, I'm going to make a hear noise check, and as all the characters have a base 1 in 6 chance, I'm going to make a single roll. A 1. That's a success. Let's find out what all that means. The soft white glow of the enchanted moonstone reflected off the limestone, bathing the passage in an ethereal light as the companions passed through the portal. Beric and Canute led the way, cautiously advancing behind their shields. Talion and Valen followed, the mage holding the gem aloft, while Lena and Jenna brought up the rear. The walls were rough, preserving much of the rock's natural texture, yet the tunnel ran straight, a testament to the skill of those who carved it. The air was cool and slightly damp, carrying the faint scent of earth and minerals, and as they continued down the passage, the moonstone's light revealed ancient symbols etched into the limestone walls. Some worn by time, others still distinct. The symbols were a mix of intricate patterns and glyphs, some resembling celestial bodies, while others depicted scenes of nature. As the moonstone's light shifted, it cast a new angle of illumination on the ancient symbols, revealing hidden words that had previously been obscured. The companions paused so that Valen could examine them. To the mage, the words glowed faintly in the silvery light. He traced his fingers along the carved lines of the ancient script, and as he did so, he felt a subtle vibration, as if the words themselves were resonating with his touch. He recognized the language once more as Old Merenish.
"To those who seek wisdom, let the light guide your way,"
he translated for the benefit of the others, and as he spoke the words, all around, the natural crystals within the rock began to glow, softly lighting the way ahead.
"What secrets do you hold?"
Valen murmured to himself. Beric tightened his grip on his shield. "Let's find out." They moved forward, and soon the sound of running water could be heard ahead, growing louder with each step. The passage began to slope gently downward, the air growing cooler and more humid. Abruptly, Canute stopped, putting his arm out to indicate that Beric should do likewise.
There's someone ahead.
The Skarne's voice was almost a whisper.
There.
Beric strained his ears. He could hear nothing above the bubbling and burbling. Wait. There it was. A voice. It sounded like a man, though it was low and rasping. The warrior looked over his shoulder.
Be ready,
he commanded in a low voice. The companions moved forward. They could see the end of the tunnel now, and it was evident that this was the source of the water. Presently, they came to a large chamber, some 70 feet in both directions, dimly lit by the same luminous crystals. From the entrance, it fanned out in a semicircle until the walls once again became straight. On each side were 3 small alcoves, each containing a statue of a woman carrying a jug. The nearest were young and nubile. The next was shown as being with child, while the furthest were depicted as old and wizened. On the far wall were 2 stone doors, between which, emerging from a wide culvert, ran a channel of fast-flowing water, which terminated in the centre of the room and drained away through a hole in the floor. In contrast to the passage, the air here smelt of death, and scattered about were the remains of various creatures, mainly goats, but among them could be seen bones which were unmistakably human. To the right, standing among the putrid carcasses, was an abomination. Its body was furred and feline, except its long tail was tipped with sharp spikes. From its shoulders sprouted leathery bat-like wings, but more horrifically, its head was that of an old bearded man. The creature's eyes gleamed with malice as it took a step forward, its claws scraping against the stone floor. Its mouth widened in a cruel smile, revealing rows of sharp teeth. Then it spoke.
My flesh.
Entering combat. The party have encountered a manticore. The description in the narrative was how the characters would have perceived it from their own points of reference. But for those who are not familiar with this monster, it has a feline body that is that of a lion. These hideous creatures are frequently referenced in medieval bestiaries. Most historical sources, as well as other role-playing games, portray the manticore as having a scorpion-like tail, whereas all versions of Dungeons & Dragons instead describe it as having a tail tipped with hard spikes. I think the latter provides a greater challenge for most parties, so I'm going with the D&D version, and specifically using the stats as stated in the AD&D Monster Manual. Manticores are 6+3 hit dice monsters, with an ascending armor class of 15. Each round, it can attack with 2 claws dealing 1d4 points of damage, plus a bite dealing 2d4 points of damage. Or instead, it can attack by shooting 6 bony spikes from its tail, each dealing 1d6 points of damage. The manticore has a total of 24 spikes, which take 24 hours to regrow. The rules for shooting spikes are ambiguous, so I have decided that I will make an attack roll for each spike. Okay, time to roll the manticore's hit points. That will be a total of 32. I also rolled a hear noise check for the manticore off mic, and the result was a success, so on that basis, I'm going to rule that neither side is surprised. Right, let's get to it. Round 1. Initiative. The manticore. A 4. The party. A 6. First up, Valen will attempt to cast shield upon himself. The mate will need to roll a 17 or less for his casting roll. A 3. Valen speaks the incantation.
Quidade, Ughel Falerisco.
And a translucent barrier materializes around his body. Jenna reaches for her holy symbol and prays for the creature to be blinded by the miracle of light. Given the need to act quickly, I'm going to apply a -2 penalty, meaning the cleric will need to roll a 14 or less for her prayer to be answered. A 12.
Solon, giver of light, blind this monstrosity with thy divine radiance!
The manticore can, however, attempt a save versus spell to resist the effect. It will need to roll a 14 or more. A 14! The creature's red eyes momentarily flare with light, before returning to their normal colour. Talion already had an arrow on his bowstring. He draws back and shoots. He will need to roll a 12 or more. An 18! The arrow thumps into the manticore's hindquarters. 5 points of damage. Beric charges forward, brandishing Callous Cledder. The warrior needs an 11 or more. A 19 for 5 points of damage. Canute also runs forward. He too needs an 11 or more. But with a 5, he misjudges the strike, and his blade hits the floor. Lena moves to smite the creature with her warhammer. The cleric will need a 14 or more to hit. A 4. Lena is thrown by how the manticore withstood Jenna's miracle, and her hesitation prevents her from getting into position. Now for the manticore's attack. I will roll randomly for the target. It's Lena. The creature sees Lena's hesitation and perceives it as weakness. I'm going to make a high-low roll on a d20. A low roll will mean it attacks with claws and bite. A high roll will indicate a tail spike attack. A 12. Okay, roll these 6 d20s for the spike attacks. Each will need to roll a 10 or more to hit. That's 4 hits, rolling 4d6 for damage. 14, ouch! That drops Lena down to 8 hit points. With a flick of its tail, 6 of the 8-inch long bony spikes shoot out from the manticore's tail, 4 striking Lena in the chest. She screams in agony, dropping to her knees. Valen shouts in alarm.
Lena!
Round 2. Initiative. The Manticore. A 5. The party. A 1. I need to announce spell intentions here. Given Lena is badly hurt, I think Jenna will attempt to pray for the miracle of Cure Light Wounds. But first, let's see who the Manticore will target. Oh no, it's Jenna! Once again, a high-low roll will determine which kind of attack. A 13, that will be tail spikes again. This presents real peril for the young cleric. The Manticore will need to roll 9 or more to hit, rolling 6 d20s. That's 3 hits. That could have been a lot worse, but Jenna is still in real danger. As a reminder, I have a house rule that characters who fall to exactly 0 hit points are unconscious rather than dead, so as long as the combined damage from these hits is 15 or less, the cleric will live. Rolling 3d6. Oh no, it's 17. Jenna runs over to Lena and begins to pray urgently.
Naya, mother of life, keeper of death, wrap us in thy sweet caress.
But as she speaks, the manticore whips its tail once more, unleashing another volley of bony spikes. 3 hit the cleric square in the chest, breaking open the links of her mail shirt and piercing her heart. She falls to the ground, her lifeless eyes staring up, an expression of earnest humility fixed upon her face. Lena cries out, "No!" But there is no time to grieve. Talion draws another arrow and shoots. A 4. The bard's arrow flies wide of its mark. Beric attempts to regain the initiative by hacking down at the creature. A 7. The manticore steps to the side, dodging the warrior's blade. Canute brings his sword around in a sweeping arc. A 16 is a hit for 7 points of damage. The Skarne's blade strikes the manticore on the shoulder, completely severing its right wing. The leathery mass flops onto the floor as the creature screams in pain and hatred. Lena kneels down beside Jenna in a vain hope that her friend still yet lives. Valen, meanwhile, runs to support the 2 warriors. An 18 is a hit for 2 points of damage as the bronze staff thumps into the manticore's rump. Round 3. Initiative. The Manticore. A 5. The party. A 4. Emboldened by its kill and full of rage at losing its wing, the Manticore launches another attack. It will target Canute. That makes sense given the Skarne just badly wounded it. A high-low roll will determine the nature of the attack. An 8. That will be its 2 claws and its bite. Claws first. Double 6s, both miss. Now for the bite attack. Nat 20! That will be a total of 15 points of damage. The manticore launches itself at the Skarne, its claws gripping the rim of Canute's shield and pulling it down with its powerful forelegs. The abomination's maw opens wide, revealing 3 rows of razor-sharp teeth. It snaps forward, clamping its jaws on the victim's left shoulder. Canute screams in agony as the manticore tears out a huge chunk of flesh, blood misting in the air. This is looking very bad. The party needs to end this fight, and fast. Talion knocks another arrow, but with a 4 he cannot get a clear shot. Beric, seeing his cousin badly injured, attacks. A 12 is a hit for 4 points of damage. The warrior stabs forward as the manticore is up on its hind legs. His blade slides easily into the creature's underbelly. It howls in pain, rearing back and releasing Canute in the process. The manticore is down to 7 hit points. Seeing an opportunity, and despite his grievous wound, Canute swings his own blade. Nat 20! No need to roll damage. The Skarne's sword connects with the manticore's neck. A fountain of blood erupts as the head is cleaved from its shoulders. The head rolls a few feet before coming to rest, Canute's flesh still in its mouth. The battle is over, but at a terrible cost. Thank you for listening to Legend of the Bones. I hope you've enjoyed the show. If you like what you've heard, then please consider rating and reviewing the show in your podcatcher of choice. Not only do I love seeing the feedback, but it really does help the show reach new listeners. As always, where would I be without my amazing cast of voice talent? Returning to the show, in the role of Jenna, is Fiona K. Howat. Fiona is an actor and improviser, as well as the creator of the What Am I Rolling and the GM Book Club podcasts. Fiona has been wonderfully generous with her support in voicing Jenna, for which I'm incredibly grateful. But alas, all good things must come to an end. And you never know, Fiona may be back at some point in a new role. Speaking of people I am hugely grateful to, and returning in the role of Canute, is my comrade in arms, Jon Cohen, creator of Tale of the Manticore. It really was gratifying when the dice handed me the wonderfully apt result that meant Canute delivered the killing blow. It was pure magic, and that is why we play. You can also help by liking or reposting new episode announcements, or by recommending the show online or to a friend. You really can't beat the power of word of mouth. Alternatively, if you'd like to show your appreciation by buying me a metaphorical cup of tea, then I have a Ko-fi page at ko-fi.com/Legend of the Bones. Any donations will go towards the show's running costs. If you're interested, I also have a range of merchandise, which can be found at www.redbubble.com/people/legendbones/shop. To keep the cost down to you, all items are presented at zero markup. I make no money from them. It's purely to give something back to fans of the show. I'd also love to know what you think of the show, and I do respond to every message I receive. So with that in mind, you can contact me on X at LegendBones, Blue Sky at LegendBones, Mastodon at LegendBones, at ttrpg-hangout.social, Instagram at LegendOfTheBones, email at legendofthebones@gmail.com, or go to legendofthebones.blogspot.com for show notes, house rules, character profiles, art, maps and more. Join me next time to find out what awaits our adventurers as the bones decide their fate. None shall escape the destiny of Bone.
Hey, listen. Do you know your D8s from your D12s? Do you know your modifiers from your bonuses? Do you know your destiny points from your story points? Do you have any idea what I'm talking about? Either way, you should check out What Am I Rolling, a twice-monthly RPG one-shot podcast. Catch up on previous episodes on the What Am I Rolling website, that's www.wairpodcast.com, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Remember, adventurers need not apply.